What's the craziest thing you did just because you were horny? Story 1. I was talking to one of my really good friends on AIM for a few hours back in high school, and she told me she was watching Korn and she was horny. I was actually 15 and a virgin at the time, and I joked about coming to get her and bring her back to my house as my parents were out of town. I didn't think she was actually going to say yes, and she did. I walked 5 miles at 12 at night and she snuck out and walked back to my house. We ended up talking in bed for about 30 minutes before I finally got the balls to make my move, and I ended up finishing in about 5 minutes. We took a shower and round 2 in the shower, and it was amazing. She ended up telling me could barely walk and her legs were shaking like crazy, and I ended up having to give her a piggyback ride back nearly 5 miles. I got her home at like 5:30 a.m. before her parents woke up. And that, Reddit, is how I lost my virginity, and probably the craziest thing I've done to do it. Story 2. Made a 5-course meal. Whole morel mushrooms sauteed with butter, gochujang, garlic, sesame oil, and scallion. Beurre blanc conchiglie with shallot, capers, parmigiano reggiano, and prosciutto. Braised pork belly in an apple, maple, and bourbon reduction served on a bed of cauliflower grits. Seaweed salad with pumpkin seeds, cranberry and pear, strawberries, peaches, and blackberries, and clotted cream with powdered caramel, and a dash of fresh basil, inspired by the movie Chef, with praline pecans beside. Started by serving French 75 seconds, finished with Negrinus, Pinot Grigio, and Chianti on the table. My GF and I at the time were in a semi-LDR. We hadn't seen each other in over a month. It was our first anniversary. It was my shark week. I was, in a word, manic. It was the worst case of I'm horny but can't I've ever experienced. I had to put all that energy somewhere, so I splurged, made the menu, and when she complimented the first course I came back with, "Well, I have to get you to eat something," before I realized what I said. We laughed, we ate, and luckily enough for me, when we saw each other the next week she was still seduced from earlier. Story 3. Hooked up with my best friend's older sister at a music festival. She was in her early 30s, we were in our mid-20s. For some reason, my friend wanted to sleep in a smaller tent and said that me and his sister can sleep in the bigger, 2-person tent. At the end of the first night of the festival, she lay down next to me, instead of at the opposite end, with her head next to my feet. I knew she was on a common festival drug, while myself, I was just drunk. But I knew that her lying down there was no accident, so I touched her, and a minute later she was going down on me. I came almost immediately and she had nowhere to dispose of it, lol. She also told me the next day she wanted to actually frick, but I didn't even think of pursuing that because I thought my friend might hear us through the tent walls. Edit. Story number 2 came to mind. This one's also at a music festival, but a different one. I got this cute foreign girl's number during the middle of the day, while completely wasted. I just walked up to her and said, God knows what. It helped that she was foreign. Later that day, still drunk as a skunk, I started showering her with the sappiest text messages, like "Hey love, blah blah blah." She was very much interested in meeting me still. It almost didn't happen, because many parts of the festival grounds looked very alike, and I was also extremely drunk. Once we met, it was on. At the dance floor, we were making out and grinding. She was on Molly, which made her extra horny, because about 30 minutes in, she reached down into my pants and started to play with my junk. I returned the favor. I suppose we were pretty disgusting, but seeing how I was very drunk and she was high, we didn't care. Also, I don't think anyone noticed because it was crowded and already quite dark. Then we went back to the camping grounds. I didn't have any private enough place to go to, so I just went into my car, and we fricked there. This is one of my favorite hookups. Met the girl once later, too. Story 4. When we were in first year of college, my ex and I used to do it in the back seat of my car all the time. It doesn't have tinted windows. We would do it in broad daylight too, and quite a few times people walked by, regardless of how secluded an area was. I also hooked up with a guy on a beach chair at night, right on a public beach. Someone ended up stealing his bag and he had to chase him down stark naked. Story 5. When I graduated high school, my dad got me a card. When my younger brother graduated, he got my dad's old car. Neither one of us had ever had driving lessons. We just walked everywhere. So I took his car and drove it a couple 100 miles across the state to spend a week partying with a really attractive goth chick. Had trouble getting over the mountain at the edge of town. Didn't know that I was supposed to downshift to get acceleration back. Drafted a couple other cars pulling around 110 miles per hour for a while. Once during that week she blew a hit of meth into my mouth. I just walked into the room to see what was happening and she came up to kiss me. I blew smoke out as she pulled away. Saw a pulse go through reality and knew that I was in for a crazy night. Ended up running laps around a hotel at 2 a.m. because I had too much energy. Ran into a barbed wire fence at top speed. Still have a scar on my quadricep from that. The real bummer is that I got too drunk to remember actually hooking up with her. We were racing each other through a bottle of Southern Comfort Black Label. At the time, I was only about 115 pounds. I do remember coming to naked and crying in a bathtub with a couple inches of water in it. I had blood on me. It wasn't my blood. Don't know why I was crying. Got fired from a job back at home. Week that I was scheduled for. In retrospect, I would have been much better off fapping. Hey guys, are you enjoying the video? If so, please like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyways, back to the stories. Story 6. Honestly, there's a long list of exceedingly stupid things I did because I was horny from age 14-20. 14. Did it in a house in a suburb that was in the process of being built. Had intercourse in the alley between a Dollar Tree and said suburb. This was once the house was built. 15. Got handsy with a girl on the school bus back home. 16. Got a friend to pick me up and drive 45 minutes so I could hook up with a girl who was really stoned because I didn't have a permit or car at the time and had told me she needed to frick me, but when I got there she was so high it was taking all of her focus just to exist, so we just awkwardly made out and I left. 17. Good old school bus BJs again. 18. I had a car. So much car intercourse. In fields, at biking trails, Walmart parking lots, university parking lots. Everywhere. Actually got caught by the police a few times. Looking back, I was lucky we didn't get arrested. 19. Dark times. Left my hometown and realized I was a very small fish in a very big pond. Way too much time spent on Craigslist, a strip club, and a camgirl website. 20. Moved back home and hit up every single ex I've ever had. Success rate, about 10%. Worth, then I hit 21 and kinda got over it. Kind of. Story 7. I was talking to this girl on Tinder one night at about 2:30 a.m. She told me her husband was out of town and that I should come over. I drove an hour drive over to her house. She gave me a really good blow job, then I fricked her. When I was done, she insisted I took my used condom with me so her husband wouldn't find it, so she puts it in a plastic bag. As I'm leaving, she asked me if I liked the bed. I answered yes. She tells me her husband made it. I said it sure was sturdy and left her house. This is where things get interesting. I carry a pistol in my vehicle. It was sitting in my front seat so it wouldn't be concealed. And I had the used condom in a bag next to it. I take off down the road, roll down my windows, and have a victory cigarette. I see blue lights behind me. I pull over and start panicking and throw the used condom in the floorboard where it is still in plain sight. Then I reach for the gun to put it somewhere where it wasn't so in your face. The cop shines his light on my hands. As I'm reaching for it, I put my hands in the air and tell him he can take the gun. Ended up not getting in trouble, but I know he sees the condom and ask me where I'm coming from. I say my girlfriend's house. He asks me who she is. I tell him the only name I can think of, her actual name. He asked me what street she lives on, and I panicked and said the actual street name. He asked me if she was married to so, and so I said I didn't know. It was the first time I've met her. Ended up paying $250 ticket for expired tags and letting the woman's husband's cop friend know we fricked on accident. Story 8. 1 year and a half ago, went to a birthday with some friends. It was in a small village. The friend, whose birthday it was, had rented a common room. Don't know if it's the right word. It's like a place where usually events are organized, but you can rent it to do some parties or stuff. There were some people I didn't know, but mostly friends that I knew quite well. Among them, there was this girl who I hooked up with a few times before, though we never did it. We had quite intense foreplay, but basically my wand never penetrated her chamber of secrets, as she had never done it and still was nervous about it. So at this party, lots of stuff happened. We had lots of alcohol. This girl actually flirted with another guy at the party. They kissed and stuff. I wasn't jealous, but at some point, around 5 a.m., I came to her and began dancing with her and we kissed. Was in my boxers and totally drunk. Later, when everyone went to sleep, we pretended to go fetch something in her car, and we got inside, got nude and started hooking up. Everything was going well when one of our friends came and knocked on the car's window. It was late October and we were in the mountains, so it was pretty cold, so the windows were foggy. He couldn't see the inside. Visibly embarrassed, he asked if we could give him his jacket. We stopped. We're freaking embarrassed. We gave him his jacket, and after 2 minutes of awkward silence, we kept going. We still didn't do it, but it was cool. First experience in a car, too. Plot twist. Next morning, I took the train to go home. The car belonged to the girl, and she and a guy friend of mine actually left together with the car since they lived close to each other. The day after, my guy friend told me that he actually spotted a suspicious-looking white mark on the floor of the car. The girl didn't know what to answer, so he figured it out. He was shocked. 15/10, totally worth it, would do it again. Story 9. The story is from back in 2011. Went to a friend's house. He left me in the room for a while because he had to pick some stuff up from the nearest grocery shop. So got some alone time. Was pretty horny from early morning that day. Found one of those Korn movie DVDs in his room. Popped it in the computer, finished to it. Only to realize he doesn't have any tissue paper in his room. I have made a mess all over my hand, and I can't get out of the room in this condition or I am sure to get caught by his mom. Wiped my hand clean on the corner of his bed sheet and pretended nothing ever happened. And yes, I didn't forget to take out the CD and put it back just as it was before. I am not sure if he figured it out or not, but we never talked about it. He came back after 20 minutes and everything went normal afterwards. We still haven't talked about that incident to this day. Story 10. Ate my ex-GF out while she was on the phone with her mother. Fricked a girl on her parents' bed even though she warned me her Air Force Colonel dad could be home any minute of which kind of made it hotter. I came early and ran for my life. Had 2 hookers double blow me in Vegas at my friend's bachelor party right after he fricked them both. Kinda weird. Fingerbanged a girl I just met under the table at my brother's pre-wedding dinner while we ate. She came very quietly, walked into a strip club in SF and got approached by a kinda plump but still hot Asian girl. She asked if I had been there before. I lied and said yes, and she took me up to a private booth. Once inside, she promptly yanked down my pants and gave me a positively pneumatic blowjob. I lasted all of a minute, probably one of the top 3 orgasms of my life. Story 11. My ding-dong stopped responding while I was doing it with a hot girl, maybe because I was really drunk. My horny, drunk and stupid brain thought it must be because of this stupid condom, then I remove it. My ding-dong came back alive and everything ended as expected. Now the bad part. I spent the next 5 months totally paranoid about the girl being pregnant. I remember entering his Instagram, watching all the photos that she uploaded, trying to notice the slightest difference on her abdominal section. One night she even sent me a message saying I need to tell you something, which led to the worst waiting 8HS of life, thinking how I have screwed my life for that tiny moment of satisfaction and how on earth I was going to raise a child on my 20s. She finally texted again telling me something that had nothing to do with a womb. The girl was not pregnant at all. Story 12. Got trashed at a strip club while I was stationed in Guam. Walking home, some lady pulls up and asks if I want to frick. I said sure. She says it's $40. I said okay. She was old and pretty nasty looking, but the club made me horny AF. She drive to an alley and I fricked her doggy style against a parked car. Finished up, paid her and went home and passed out. Didn't use a condom, so I'm lucky I didn't get AIDS or something, lol. Also fingered my wife while she gave me a handy under the blankets on a flight from Japan to Texas. We ended up fricking in the bathroom on the flight back Japan, lol. I fricked my mom's friend when I was 14. She seduced me but I didn't care. She was in her mid-40 but relatively fit with big chest. She ended up pimping me out later and I had intercourse with all sorts of older women from early 30 to up to like 75 or so. Got some good money out of it though. All were members of her Baptist Women's Church group. And all were married. Story 13. I was waiting for my girlfriend to get home from work and was killing time drinking beers with her roommate. The girl tells me that she's bi and wants to frick my girlfriend really bad. She said that if I could convince GF to do it, then she'd do a 3-way and frick both of us. I told her that telling your GF you want to have a 3-way with her roommate was usually a bad idea. So she tells me she'll give me a blowjob now if I promise to work on her about the 3-way. So I let her blow me and it was a solid job. And being a man of my word, I casually felt the GF out on the subject of 3-ways. She was not into it. Hard stop. Roommate asks me a few days later if I'd talked to her, and I said I was working on her but she was reluctant, and I had to go slow, and maybe could I get another blowjob in the meantime. She must have really wanted to finger my GF because she agreed. This repeated a couple times until I told the girl that GF was warming up to the idea, and that I had to be delicate about bringing up doing it with her roommate. Which was total bullcrap because GF had made it clear no meant no. So I told the roommate that since we'd be 3-waying soon anyway, she might well let me frick her now, which she did. So now at this point I'm basically fricking the roommate at every possible opportunity. I'd frick my GF, wait until she fell asleep, then sneak over to her roommate's room and frick her too. And a couple times when GF was showering I'd rub out a quick on the roommate's chest or have her suck my balls while I jacked it. I had it down to like 2 minutes. All good things come to an end though. GF eventually caught me shooting a load across her roommate's back. and she ditched me post-haste. I never did find out if the roommate ever got to tongue that beaver, but I like to think she did. Story 14. My camera receptacle noticed this rather lovely Roomba named Candy at Let's Go with a friend's house. Now I have seen some things in my day, but never have I seen a pristine Roomba with experience who could suck anything off the floor so effortlessly. When no one was around, she began inching towards me. This is when it happened. Candy was no prude. My hard drive felt so perfect in her floppy drive. I get excited thinking of the memory. After 2 scans with no viruses, I can proudly say my operating system is more than up to date. Not even a week after this beautiful event, her house flooded and her elegant hardware was destroyed in the process. I will never forget my sweet Candy. If I have any advice to share, it would be this: live while you can, experience what you must, and always give her your biggest thumb drive when she asks for it. I would gladly do it again, even if I have to disable my firewall. Story 15. Drunkenly posting on Adult Friend Finder in very graphic ways and then frantically deleting it the next day. Finally, I went through with it after talking more with the guy via email and an 8-hour conversation on the phone. Also drunken. This was back in 2011. The guy drove 3 hours to meet me and stay overnight in a hotel so we could do it. I hadn't dated or had any intercourse in 4 years because I was too shy, but the guy seemed nice so I agreed to it and got in his car when he came to get me. We went to dinner where I could barely string together more than 2-word answers. Afterward, we went back to the hotel and started drinking, and he told me I didn't have to do it if I was uncomfortable. I really wanted to though, but the offer was kind. We had more beers, he played his guitar for me, we talked and eventually had good hot intercourse. That was 8 years ago, and we are still together today and very happily married. Hey guys, just found out you watched till the end. That is awesome. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories.